I'm genuinely excited for Zenless Zone Zero, but the marketing has been so bad, it's honestly kind of killing my hype.
ZZZ still seems pretty meh.
So Zenless Zone Zero is lacking a lot of things or didn't optimize a lot of things yet, so it might actually be dead on release.
Zenless Zone Zero releases next week, and I've seen the sentiment going around about people just saying they don't feel hyped, they're not excited, and I'm wondering why that is. The thing that sparked me to make this video is this tweet from Arusium, which reads, "Past few days, I really haven't been seeing much hype for Zenless. Maybe the live stream will bring it up a bit, but we'll have to see. But at least there's people who still want to play. Making polls on all platforms, asking people and creators, the main two answers I get is not interested response or I'm giving the game a try for X amount of days, but they're not really giving it any expectations." So I kind of wanted to discuss or give my take on why people are seemingly not nearly as excited as they quote unquote should be, or like you would expect more hype for this. It's a Hoyoverse game, right? So the first thing I want to bring up is, for this I'll be referencing and paraphrasing content from Gacha Smack's latest post about his YouTube video and EO's Zenless Zone Zero video he did 6 months ago. Now, I don't know what it is, but for some reason, more than any other fan base I've been a part of, Gacha players love to doom post about new games in their genre, claiming how bad a game is compared to the one you main. It's like a never-ending battle. People saw the Street Fighter 6 collab and were like, who is this for? And they think the FGC community will want nothing to do with a company like Hoyoverse, just as an example. But it's all just assumptions, when the reality is there are a lot of overlap between these communities. The first factor I want to mention with these gacha games is their cycle. A game gets announced, we hear nothing for months, maybe a closed beta test here and there, and then the game comes out and it blows up for 2 to 3 weeks. Now for this, I want you to think back to Honkai Star Rail. People criticized the game for 2 reasons. It was turn-based, and it wasn't Genshin Impact. Some people hopped on because it was part of an established IP, others it was just turn-based so they played it, but many didn't like it at first due to its simplicity. Having only 2 buttons for a turn-based action game made it seem too easy, but as we've seen, they've grown and expanded upon this. On release, Honkai Star Rail had the initial 1 to 10 MOC, 11 and 12 didn't exist, and we had higher worlds for simulated universe. Since then, we've seen MOC 11 and 12, 2 more endgame modes, 3 simulated universe expansions, and several permanent events. Not to mention combat mechanics like Super Break, the way Acheron's ult works, enhanced basics, enhanced skills. They do a lot. There's a lot building on those 2 button decisions. This shows how initial negativity is common and how games can build on themselves after release. Interviews about Zenless Zone Zero indicate that it plans to follow a similar path, with building on the simplicity that they have at first and growing that as the game progresses. The next point is marketing and target audience. One sentiment I've heard a lot is that people feel weird about the marketing, or they simply aren't excited. I feel like it's just really that simple. The advertising that they're seeing is just simply not aimed at them. Not everybody engages deeply on platforms like Twitter or Reddit or vocal minority sides. The fact that you're watching this video already puts you in a bubble. It puts you in such a small minority of people, even though like gaming, social media engagement is pretty high, but compared to like the vast audience of people that play these games, I would like to bet that the ones that engage in content creators and Twitter and Reddit are really just a small amount of people in comparison. The collaboration with Street Fighter 6 is a big deal for many people who probably don't play Hoyo games. I mentioned in the first ever video that having playable animals taps into a huge audience, and that's what they're doing with Street Fighter. The game's producer, Jinyu Lee, stated that their intent to appeal to a massive audience is something that they strive for. Hoyo does sponsored streams, offline events, web events, live streams, and trailers. They know how to reach their desired audience. The only time Hoyo had a marketing flop was the Elon Musk thing on Twitter, but with the way that went down, you could argue it was actually a success. Some people argue that the team just doesn't know their target audience, and while I don't work for them, if I were to guess, they probably have this aimed at young adults who enjoy action games and hack and slash combat, typically ages 18 plus. You might bring up the game's 12 plus rating and wonder why I say 18 plus, and the reason is simple: kids and teenagers aren't their primary spenders. The original 16 plus rating was likely lowered to reach more people. Parents are more likely to approve of a 12 plus game for their kids, but it's simply just a marketing move. The big point is, you just don't feel excited because the advertisement you're seeing in the launch campaign just isn't targeted at you so far. And unfortunately, the sad reality might be the game just might not be for you. And that's fine. Now that can change. They might change it up. We don't know. We'll see. For this point I'm making, I want to point to Kuro Games. They made Wuthering Waves with Genshin Impact players in mind. If you want to look at a piece of evidence, there's the UI. You log into the game and open the menus, and you notice that if you play Genshin, you notice a familiarity with the menu system. The only thing that's different is the naming conventions, but aside from the ecosystem, even then, the main functions of each subsystem you're familiar with in some capacity, which is why people still refer to them as constellations, eidolons, resin, artifacts, and relics. The final point I'm bringing up is market saturation and player tension. It's important to mention that these companies are competing for your attention and time. Many gacha games are releasing soon, including Arcanex Enfield, Wuthering Waves has come out, Azure Permelia, Project Mugen, World's Frontline 2, and the fact that people seemingly aren't hyped could just be due to the sheer amount of games coming out. It's not that people don't care, it's that their attention is spread thin because there's just so many games coming out. But to wrap this all up, despite the seemingly lukewarm reception, I'm still excited for Zenless Zone Zero, and I feel like this is nothing new that we're seeing right now. I intend to cover the game extensively. It's important to give new games a chance to grow and develop, as initial perceptions can change over time, as we've seen with Star Realm. But feel free to add your take down below and sub, like, all that great stuff. Stay tuned. More ZZZ. Peace.